So I was thinking the other day, and maybe it's just like drunk thoughts. It wasn't even the other day; it was like this morning. But I was thinking about I needed a key one day, but I had a cabinet that had no key that I needed to be locked. So I asked somebody, "Can you make a key for this?" And they took a picture and took it to like a locksmith or something, and they were able to make a key for that lock by just taking a picture and looking at a number. What would be the perfect job for a serial killer? Like, to be in a locksmith would be the perfect job. Like, you could have access and figure out keys to anybody's houses, or just for somebody who likes to steal things. But like, if I was a serial killer, I would just be like a locksmith because I could get in and just kill anybody like I ever wanted to.
Andrew Luck has a lot of free time now. Maybe he can get into that.
Maybe.
Let's get loaded, because this is the Loaded Box Podcast.
But we never finish first because we finish last.
Oh, thank you once again for tuning in to the Loaded Box Podcast. I am Ben Morgan. That is DJ Primo. And DJ, we were hit with just a bomb yesterday. I know we were both watching the Gators Hurricanes opening to college football. I was having a blast. I was drinking beer. I was drinking whiskey. My favorite college team was playing. And bam.
There's no way.
You sent me a text. And then at the same time you sent me the text, I got the notification that Andrew Luck, at the age of 29, decided to retire. I've been shook ever since.
There's no way you were having fun watching that Gators game while that happened, because that was the biggest fucking disaster of a football game I've ever watched in my entire life.
Maybe we can get back to that later. But this Andrew Luck thing, we're recording this right now. It's Sunday afternoon. We're literally 2 weeks away from the start of the regular season. We all thought Andrew Luck was going to be a top 3 fantasy quarterback this year. And now, dude, shit hit the fan. Jacoby Brissett's there. T.Y. Hilton's dropping. Who knows what to do with Marlon Mack and the running backs? I'm shook.
Yeah, I was shook for about 30 minutes afterwards, because he's such a amazing football player. He's literally the one of the best fucking quarterbacks we'll ever see. He was the can't miss prospect that was right, was out for 2 years, comes back and dominates again as usual last year, and then all of a sudden he's been on the sidelines, they've shown him working out, and all of a sudden, boom, you're retiring in the middle of a football game. What in the hell is going on?
If you were a Colts fan and you were at that game, because the announcement came out while the Colts were doing their preseason game. If you were a fan at that game and when he was walking off the field, if the guy next to you would have been booing, would you have punched him in the face or picked him up and thrown him onto the field?
I probably had to punch him in the face.
Just because you can't pick him up or what?
Yeah, that. I just like punching people. You know.
Well, we'll get into a little bit more of Andrew Luck and the implications it has on T.Y. Hilton here in a second. But yes, we are continuing our fantasy rankings episodes. This is wide receivers 1 through 12. Just like all the other rankings episodes, we're going to be putting these players in hypothetical situations so it's more realistic come draft day. I know a lot of you guys have probably already had your drafts or are going to be having them very soon. So hopefully you didn't draft yesterday and draft Lamar Miller and come back with Andrew Luck, because you're going to want to hit the reset button on that team ASAP.
Did you see the video of they were panning in a draft, and it gets to O.J. Simpson, and he's like, Andrew Luck. What? And people were like, Andrew Luck, this is the last person you want to make angry.
That is so true. So rest in peace, Andrew Luck. You pissed off O.J.
We know where to look for Luck if he goes missing.
Yeah, no kidding. The receivers that we're going to be bringing up today are the likes of DeAndre, Hopkins, Davante Adams, Julio Jones, Michael Thomas, OBJ, Tyreek Hill, Juju, Smith-Schuster, Mike Evans, Antonio Brown, Adam Thielen, Keenan Allen, and the before-mentioned T.Y. Hilton. So, DJ, let's just jump into it right away. How far do you have T.Y. Hilton dropping in your rankings, and where are you comfortable taking him now with basically Jacoby Brissett as his starting quarterback? Unless they make a move, it looks like it's going to be him. As of right now, before the Luck news, he was going as the 10th pick in the 3rd round. So where are you dropping him to? Where are you comfortable taking him?
Oh, he's dropping all the way turned up. I'm looking at a list of wide receivers here that I would take before him. You know, there's some guys that, it's so weird the order of some of these guys going, but I'm looking here. Tyler Lockett, I'm taking ahead of him. Cooper Kupp, I'm probably taking ahead of him at this point. I'm taking him probably around, which is weird. Tyler Boyd is ahead of DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson. I'd probably take Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore, then T.Y., and then move Tyler Boyd below those guys. So somewhere in that 6th round there.
Oh, wow. See, I'm a little bit higher on him still than what you have right there. You mentioned Cooper Kupp, Tyler Lockett, kind of in that area, which is basically late round 4, early round 5. I'm still thinking that I would take him there just because he's not as good, obviously, in the past without Andrew Luck, but he's gotten it done every once in a while with Jacoby Brissett. And based on the report that I don't remember who tweeted it, but it kind of sounded like Andrew Luck brought this to the Colts' attention back in March. That like, hey, if I don't get right, if I'm not feeling it, retirement is a realistic possibility. So he gave them ample time to basically free agency. They had all free agency to address the position. They could have done something in the NFL draft. They didn't. If the report is true, knowing that Andrew Luck might not be there. So it sounds like they're really comfortable moving forward with Jacoby Brissett, which makes me say, you know what? T.Y. Hilton is still a very capable wide receiver. He's always a big play threat. He's not always the most consistent guy. But man, if I can get him late 4th, early 5th, I think I'm probably going to pull the trigger on him there.
So, number one, I'm not in on Jacoby Brissett whatsoever. I can see Swag, Kelly, Joe Boy taking that position. And I'm just looking right now. I'm trying to figure out where T.Y. Hilton finished up he finished up at wide receiver 27. And that's about right around where I had him. I had him at probably, like I said, DJ Moore is wide receiver 26, Robbie Anderson is 27. So
are you talking about 2017 without Luck?
2017, 2 years ago. I was looking up where he finished.
A little context to that.
Yeah, exactly. As wide receiver 27. The last time he didn't have Andrew Luck, and he had Jacoby Brissett. So I would expect similar output to that.
The one thing I would maybe say here is Brissett, that was either rookie year or maybe his 2nd year in the league. He's got a little bit more time now. He's been behind Luck. He's been able to really grow accustomed more to the NFL speed. So yeah, he finished there, and I wouldn't be surprised if Hilton dropped that far. But at the end of the day, I think that's a floor. That's a very low floor for him. I think he shoots up higher than that.
Wasn't Jacoby Brissett drafted by the Patriots?
He was, yeah. He was one of the 19 million quarterbacks that was drafted by the Patriots. Hey, I tweeted that yesterday. In what fucking world does Tom Brady outlast Andrew Luck? What planet are we on? You know, Tom Brady's going to end up playing in this league longer than Baker Mayfield, and I'm not going to be surprised anymore.
That's gross.
Terrible.
I've already made my statements on Tom Brady being this is his downfall. I'm finally saying it. It's the Patriots. Patriots are donezo. No Super Bowls for the next 20 years. I'm still on that.
Tom Brady will be the Super Bowl MVP in 20 years. That's my prediction.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, DJ. Let's say that your pick 5, 6, or 7, and you don't want the next running back on the board. Basically saying your draft has only been running back so far. Who is the wide receiver that you're taking, and why him over the next guy on your list? I'm basically asking you here, if you're taking the first wide receiver off the board, who do you have?
What wide receiver leads the league in touchdowns the last 3 years?
Let me guess. It's a guy that you are stalking probably every single night as a Packers fan.
What wide receiver scored 10 touchdowns with Deshaun Kaiser as a starting quarterback?
Yeah, that's incredible. Is it Superman?
Yeah, it's Davante Adams. I'm taking Davante Adams because he's the number 1 wide receiver for Aaron Rodgers, and he even scores 10 touchdowns with possibly the worst starting quarterback at that time. It was Brett Hundley, not Deshaun Kaiser, my bad.
Same deal.
Same difference. It was Brett Hundley. It actually is worse than Deshaun Kaiser from what I think, from what I've seen. But it's Davante Adams. Guy is a scoring machine. He is Aaron Rodgers' favorite, most trusted guy, and you see what top wide receivers done under Aaron Rodgers. You got Jordy Nelson, Greg Jennings, even Randall Cobb as number 2. It's just money. It's touchdown city.
So Adams is your number 1. Would Hopkins be your number 2?
Yeah, easily. It's Hopkins. It's Adams, Hopkins, and I don't think anybody should really not have those as the top 2.
What, in your opinion, then separates Hopkins from Adams? In my opinion, you can't really go wrong with either. You're going to end up getting a very good receiver who, if they don't get hurt, they're going to be around 10 plus touchdowns. They're going to be around 1,400 yards. I feel like you can't go wrong with either. But let's say someone is picking that wide receiver and they're stuck between those two. What's your selling point on Adams?
It's his name's Aaron Rodgers. I say his name every freaking podcast, right? It's Aaron Rodgers.
211 times, baby.
I mean, it's the best quarterback in the history of the NFL is his quarterback right now. Plus the lack of weapons around him for these last couple of years, he is just that guy. Like that's who Rodgers is going to throw it to like all the time. If there was more guys like somebody better like Randall Cobb, like at one point there was Jordy Nelson, Greg Jennings, and Donald Driver all on the same team.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have that anymore. Like it is Davante Adams, and then it's everybody.
The rest, yeah.
You really don't know who's going to be that next guy. And honestly, in the red zone, it's going to be Davante Adams. In between the 20s, it's going to be Davante Adams. On third down, it's going to be Davante Adams. He's the guy.
See, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I think my pick, though, if I'm taking that first receiver, I think it has to be Hopkins for me. It's very similar to that, though. I mean, like, who's the clear-cut number 2 guy between Hopkins or after Hopkins? You know QT's there. You know that Fuller's there for now anyways. End of the day, Watson is going to be targeting the hell out of Hopkins. He doesn't drop the ball. He's always open. He scores a bunch of touchdowns. Like, I feel like he's going to be super consistent. I know you're not huge on the Texans offense this year, and we just saw Lamar Miller go down for the year, so who knows how that's going to factor into things. But man, if I have to take somebody, I think I'm going to go with Hopkins just because you can't really go wrong on it. And end of the day, I think Hopkins is probably the most talented between the two. Like I think Hopkins is a more talented, better, more polished wide receiver. But like you said, if you're playing with Aaron Rodgers, I don't know if that is a huge advantage. So I'm 51% freaking Hopkins and I'm 49% Adams. I don't think you can go wrong with it.
And the crazy thing is Davante was good, is half good because Aaron Rodgers, but he's become such an elite wide receiver with, like, nobody releases off the line better than Davante Adams now. He's high pointing the ball better than anybody in the league. Obviously, he scores at the red zone, so he does. The only thing he probably doesn't do is as good as DeAndre Hopkins is like the route running at the top of the route, but like. They're so similar now in the skill set. I never thought Davante would get this far.
No.
I knew he was going to be good. I didn't think he was going to be this good. He would be like a number one. He'd be a top 12 receiver, I think, no matter where he went inside the NFL. And I say that with confidence. But just adding Aaron Rodgers, they got an offensive line that protects Aaron Rodgers a lot better than the offensive line that's going to protect DeAndre Hopkins. So there's just tons of factors. I just think Green Bay's the overall better team too. So
Adams is part of a very small statistic of people who have literally had their career just shaken, and he's been able to phase that out and just almost had a new career. There was a point when the ball was thrown to him, I was like, I'm pretty sure he's going to drop this, and that's a mental thing. In order to overcome that, I think that's saying a lot. Like the fact that he was able to totally shake that, it's almost like he's a brand new player now. So. People got burned by him, 3 years ago now, 4 years ago?
Oh, yeah. People wanted him cut 3 years ago in his breakout year.
Yeah. You got to get over that now. He's literally wide receiver 1A, 1B, whatever you want. All right, DJ, of the before-mentioned wide receivers, which of them do you think leads the NFL, or at least that top 12 list, in touchdowns? And if you're going to say Adams, give me who you think can challenge Adams.
I was going to say, I have to say Adams because he leads the league the last 3 years. The other guy I think that could challenge him is Mike Evans. And it's a lot because of Bruce Arians, but it's just Mike Evans in general. He is a monster. He's just a big guy. Get his body in front of people. He can box guys out. And that's been his forte as well, is scoring touchdowns. Like you're going to get a decent amount of yards from him, but the big points for him are going to come from him scoring touchdowns, 12 to 14 range. It's Mike Evans, and it's just someone you're looking like. That body, that big of a body, is someone you're looking for in the red zone. I love that big body.
Yeah, look at that body. So this guy is not my pick for it, but Julio Jones. So his career high, I had to look this up today. His career high for touchdowns in a season came in 2012. He had 10. That's his highest. He's had 8 in 2015, and then he also had 8 last year. But he's never had more than 6 in any other year. What is your prediction for touchdowns for Julio Jones this year?
6.
You're sticking at that 6, huh?
I'll just stick right at 6. That seems to be about right. What did he have last year? 8?
He had 8 last year.
Yeah, I'll go with 6. I'll go back down to 6.
See, I'm going to give him like 8 again. I would say that maybe his ceiling is around 10. The thing is here, I think Calvin Ridley's going to end up with like about the same amount of touchdowns as what Julio Jones gets. Here's the thing, though. Calvin Ridley's not going to get the amount of catches and yards that Julio's going to get. So Julio's going to be an awesome wide receiver. I just, once again, think the touchdowns are going to be so evenly distributed there that it's not going to be like you can't mention Julio in like the top 3 or 4 guys right now. But in regards to touchdowns, I think maybe we're turning a little bit of a corner. I think a lot of Julio's touchdowns seem to like come towards the end of the year. So I think maybe they're finally trying to come up with an offensive game plan to get him the ball in the red zone, to get him the ball to score touchdowns, because it was a new offensive coordinator. They didn't have Shanahan anymore, who was targeting him constantly, even though the touchdowns didn't come with it. But it's another year. It's at some point he's going to get back into that double-digit touchdown range. I think maybe it could be this year. But so I'm going to go with like that 8 to 10. But I think my guy, the one that you didn't touch on that could potentially lead the NFL in touchdowns this year, Michael Thomas. Because, man, outside of him in that Saints offense, you got Kamara, who's probably going to score a ton. Who the hell on the outside? Like Traquan Smith, Ted Ginn. Those guys aren't going to just like hog touchdowns, I don't think. They might get a fair share of yards here and there. But, man, Michael Thomas, if anyone's going to challenge Davante Adams for touchdowns this year, it's going to be Michael Thomas. That's why I think you got to consider him if you're one of those first people taking a receiver as well.
See, I would think that if he was going to do that, it would have been last year, and he had 9 touchdowns last year.
Yeah.
So I won't expect him to go over 9 or 10 touchdowns in the next year. It's just that, I don't know, if the way that him and Drew Brees were connected and like how their completion rate was, I would have thought that they would have been closer to that last year. I don't expect that to get me higher than what it is. I think 9-10 is pretty safe for him.
Yeah, touchdowns are so hard to predict too. But it's, man, if you can get that guy that explodes for like those 14 touchdowns like Adams, and do you remember off the top of your head where he was going ADP wise last year? Like what number of receiver? He was like late of the wide receiver ones, wasn't he?
Yeah, well, where did I take him?
Well, You took him at wide receiver 1.
No, I had him right wide receiver 1, but I think I got him at like wide receiver 3 or 4, probably in that area. Yeah, I can't exactly remember.
Well, that's fine. Before we go on to the next one, I want to give a shout out real quick to the sponsor, Pristine Auction, because we're going to be doing another giveaway pretty soon here with them. But in the meantime, we can get you an extra $5 to put towards any item that you win at pristineauction.com. Just enter the code LOADED in the registration code field when you create your account. Pristine Auction has daily auctions, week-long auctions, tons of stuff for all sports for the man cave. So head over to pristineauction.com, enter registration code LOADED. All right, DJ, here's one. You need to listen, pay attention. Basically asking you 3 questions in one. You ready?
Yep.
Good. Of these next 3 wide receivers, and feel free to use the same guy for multiple answers if that's what you truly believe, but who has the biggest boom potential? That's number 1. Who has the biggest bust potential? That's number 2. And who has the safest floor? That's number 3, between Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Odell Beckham Jr.
The biggest. Fuck, this is tough.
Yeah.
This is a tough one. So I'm gonna start at the safest. I think the safest pick of the 3 of those is Juju Smith-Schuster, simply because there's no Antonio Brown. The 2 guys behind him aren't I don't know, necessarily staples in that offense. There's not a big tight end there. Ben Roethlisberger feeds the one guy that he falls in love with the guy like Antonio Brown. He's gonna feed him.
Right.
So Juju Smith-Schuster is just getting better and better. So I'm getting higher on him because I wasn't this last year. I am now. I think he's the safest. Like you're not obviously we're barring injury here. Obviously, it's not a guy that I'm worried about. Like there's no way to me he's outside the top 12. I don't see that happening with Roethlisberger and that offenses that he's in. It's just too safe. The biggest boom potential and the biggest bust potential. That's tough. I think the biggest bust potential would be Antonio Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the offense that he's in and just all the waves that he's causing there right now,
Right.
That could just go south fast. Like everything inside that organization could just collapse and fall apart, and he could just decide I don't want to play. Like he could just not show up. Like that's a real possibility, and maybe it just doesn't work. Like maybe it doesn't work in that offense at all. He doesn't like Gruden's offense. You never know. There's like that bust potential with them is crazy, and I'm separating all three of them, and then obviously the biggest I'm gonna do the biggest boom as OBJ because the opportunities there are just they could be incredible. Like they could be you could see OBJ scoring 15 touchdowns for like 1,500 yards and just going off and just exploding in the offense and just ignoring Jarvis Landry and Antonio Callaway like they never existed.
He's going to be on a mission this year, like literally just based on the things that he's been saying and about like getting traded to the Giants on purpose and the Giants taking less for him just so he could take him to Cleveland and try to like ruin his career. You could see this just being a revenge tour for OBJ. But I'm going to say OBJ is the safest. He's going to be my pick for safest because at the end of the day, I think the Browns offense is going to be really good. And even when it's not really good, I think it's going to be consistent. And I think OBJ, I mean, he's wide receiver one. He's going to get his. He's going to have boom weeks, but he's also going to be very consistent on like a week-to-week basis. I'm going to go to my boom. My boom is not OBJ like yours was because still, here how it is, too many mouths to feed. There is Jarvis Landry. There is Njoku. There is Nick Chubb. Like there's going to be a lot of guys on that team. Everyone's going to have theirs, but there's just too many mouths to feed. That's why AB is my boom pick. Because, man, here it is. I'll put it this way, actually. Because I made AB my boom and my bust. My bust pick for the same exact reasons that you said. Because he's already tried to blow up the damn team like 3 times. Like, how many more helmet appeals can a guy have? What other body parts is he going to frostbite? Like, we're not even through preseason yet, and he's tried to blow this damn thing up a couple of times. So, yeah, it might not even be because of the stuff that's on the field that's happening. It could be some off-the-field stuff. So just for that, that's going to get my bust pick. But, man, I think he's got that boom potential because he seems to, based on Hard Knocks, he seems to really like Derek Carr. And it seems like maybe they're only showing certain clips, but it seems like when they do get to actually play with each other, seems like they're clicking, seems like they're friendly. And, man, AB has just been a monster year in and year out. Look at the stats. That is the guy that always is up there for leading touchdowns. And now they have Tyrell Williams, which is another new guy, a rookie at running back. He's going to get plenty of targets. He's going to get plenty of opportunities. There's boom potential there for AB, but at the same time, he's got huge bust potential. So classic boomer bust.
That feels like Derek Carr and Antonio Brown are the most awkward to watch. I hate it. It's like an arranged marriage or a mail order bride, and they're trying to force it to work, and it's just not. And behind the scenes, Antonio Brown is just beating Derek Carr, just beating him up, making demands, telling him to cook his dinner, bitching that his dinner's not cooked when he gets home. It's just an abusive relationship. But like when they're on TV, he's like, oh, Antonio Brown's so great, he's the best, and it's almost like Stockholm syndrome with Derek Carr. He's gonna start falling in love with them just because he's a prisoner of them.
I'm gonna have to Google what the hell that you just said about Stockholm syndrome. I don't know what that is. I thought that was a city. But yeah, Hard Knocks has just made me hate Derek Carr. Knock on wood if you're with me. I mean,
you're the worst.
I am your worst. DJ, what is your concern level for Adam Thielen as a wide receiver 1 this year? Given 1, your hatred for Kirk Cousins, and 2, the fact that yesterday in his preseason game against the Cardinals, he went 3 for 13 for 35 yards in what's traditionally like the dress rehearsal game before the season starts.
This fucking kid. So my concern level with Adam Thielen, obviously, like you said, I hate Kirk Cousins. Hate him. He's trash. I'm not going to put a lot into the preseason games, though, because he's put up numbers. He's usually in, like, the top 10 quarterbacks, and he's going to put up some numbers. I'm more excited for Diggs. I pointed out the end of last year. I felt like Adam Thielen kind of disappeared. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he was on, like, some crazy record-setting pace, so any kind of fall-off does probably seem like disappearing. He did, actually. But I am concerned. I think Diggs is the more talented wide receiver. I don't know. I think people will start taking Thielen away. And he's white. So that's always a big concern for me. So I always have
DJ can say that because he's half black and half white. You always play both sides of the fence.
I'm sitting on the fence right now with a bullet in my butt, and it feels great. And I can play both sides, and nobody can say, I'm not racist, I'm half black. I'm not racist, I'm half white. So it's great. I can always use that to my advantage. But I wouldn't put too much into the dress rehearsal or whatever, because it's still guys running, 5 to 6 plays probably. Like, it's still basic vanilla offense and basic vanilla defense. It's just getting on the same page with your team as before the season starts. But I don't know. It's tough.
Yeah, so here's my theory now. I've almost changed tune a little bit with Kirk Cousins here because I think that they'll be fine this year, but I'm kind of cooling on him as like a guy that I could rely on as a starting fantasy quarterback because I think we've reached the point with Kirk Cousins where he is what he is. I don't see him really progressing. I mean, think about what he was. He was the afterthought to RG3, which paid off. But man, in Washington, yeah, he threw for a lot of yards. But you always bring up the point, where were the TDs? Where was the red zone efficiency? This dude just never got it done in the win column, and he never produced a ton of points. The Redskins were never this high-flying offense. And Minnesota saw this opportunity like, hey, let's bring in a guy that's maybe a little bit better than what we had, and we'll turn him around. And it really, last year, it just never really clicked. And they've got so much money invested in him. They have to roll with it, and that's fine. He can get the job done. But I just don't think he's going to be like the end-all, be-all quarterback that leads them there. They're going to need defense. They're going to need the running game. But in regards to fantasy football, he's going to be able to support Diggs. He's going to be able to support Thielen. And if I'm in my fantasy draft, say that in my draft order, I have one of the top picks. If I can get a stud running back in the first, come back in the late in the second, get another decent running back, and come back early third and get Thielen, I'm not going to lie. I'm actually happy with how that draft turned out. I'd be great with Alvin Kamara, another running back that's going to get some good carries, and Adam Thielen. I think that would be a great start to a fantasy team.
So here's to prove my point about the second half of the season. It actually is about as bad as I thought. So starting in week 9, against Detroit, he had 12.7 points, and then they had a bye. And then against Chicago, they had 15 points. Green Bay, he went off for 26, and then the rest of the games were 13, 12, 4, 13, and 6 in PPR style formats.
Yeah, you cooled down.
Yeah, cooled down big time. So what happened? What happened? That's if it was like the last 3 games where they're it's not as big as of a deal, but literally the second half of the season, 8 games, it came way down. What happened? What did defenses change? Were they double teaming him more, or did cornerbacks start to figure out a little bit more of what he did? Because he's not this elite athletic wide receiver. So and there are some of those type of cornerbacks out there.
That's stereotyping, DJ.
Well, he's not though. He's not like this. He's not this super athletic guy who's going to be U.S. speed and things like that. It's going to be his route running. It's going to be his hands. But what changed? Was it?
You want to know what happened?
What?
It's in Minnesota. The climate changed. He got freaking cold. The muscles tightened. He just wasn't as explosive. Shit happens, man. It gets cold. You know how this is.
Yeah, I mean, that's nothing. But I don't know.
Climate change.
That should be a cause for concern. Why are these people out here playing? They're basically playing handicap basketball, but they're not because they're riding bicycles. But they're shooting hoops. It's unbelievable.
I don't know what's happening, but that sounds like a great sport. Is someone playing basketball in a wheelchair on bicycles?
No, they're just playing on bikes. They are riding around on the basketball court, shooting hoops on bikes.
Go see if one of them is Adam Thielen. All right, we did this the last time, and I know we both enjoyed it, so let's do it again. DJ, you've got 30 seconds. Sell me on why you like Mike Evans at the 8th pick in the second round over Tyreek Hill as the 3rd pick in the second round, and then I'll take the opposite in 30 seconds. So, DJ, I'm going to tell you when to go. On your mark, get set, go.
Bruce Arians is going to throw the ball a ton.
He's going to throw the ball. I'm sorry.
He's going to throw the ball all the time. Like every play, it's going to be throw. It's going to be deep downfield. Mike Evans going up against cornerbacks one-on-one, has size. He's going to have more opportunity than he's ever had, and he's put up big numbers in the past. Plus, Mike Evans doesn't have the chance of being suspended because he's never beat a woman. So 100% going to take Mike Evans in this situation.
You've got 5 seconds to spare. 2,
Don't
1,
care.
time! All right, you let me know when you're ready to go, or when you're ready for me to go.
Always set when we hit the club.
Does that mean I should go?
Go.
All right, man. Here's the thing about Tyreek. He is playing with the best fantasy football quarterback that we've ever seen. The dude set records last year. Pat Mahomes could have taken off like the last 4 weeks and still scored more than any freaking fantasy quarterback. So one, you already have the best fantasy quarterback. You brought up the suspension. He's been cleared. There's no way this dude fucks up again. He's going to play a full schedule of games. He's going to have a babysitter. There's no way this guy can mess up again. And 3, hopefully I go quick. They're working on making him a more complete wide receiver. Every time I need to take your extra 5 seconds next time. This is bullshit.
You can't take my 5 seconds. It doesn't work like that. It's not like PTO or whatever. It doesn't carry over.
I agree. I don't want to do overtime. Well, here's my follow-up question for this. You have a child. Let's say that you have 2 options for daycare. You can either take your kid to Michael Jackson's daycare or Tyreek Hill's daycare. Where's he going?
Oh, my God. I guess simply not Michael Jackson's daycare because I don't know what's happening.
Well, that's the thing. If he's in Tyreek's, he can still fight back.
I know, and then at least he'll be a little bit tougher when he grows up, so I can take that. I don't need my kid getting fondled and scarred for life.
Oh, my gosh. I've been meaning to ask you that for like a good 3 weeks, and it finally came to fruition here.
We're probably going to get burned at the stake for that one.
Most likely, the FCC. What's that lyric?
The FCC won't let me be, so let me be me and let me see.
Fair enough. DJ, is Keenan Allen about to pass the torch to Mike Williams, or can you justify taking Keenan Allen as, right now he's going as the first pick in the 3rd round. So basically, is he worth that pick, or is Mike Williams about to like really step up and dive into what Allen's potential is?
So what wide receiver is he going as?
Keenan Allen is going
wide receiver 11.
Wide receiver 11, first pick, 3rd round.
I know he's especially in PPR, he should even be higher than that, I believe, just because he's a target monster. He's just as worthy. He's the most. We finally get to see Keenan Allen play healthy for a couple of years, and it's been incredible. Amazing receiver, amazing route runner. He should stay right where he's going. That's more than justified. I just think Mike Williams is going to shoot up right next to him. Like, I think he's going to be wide receiver 13 or 14 this year. Like, I think Mike Williams is going to make a jump from, I think he was probably around, I don't know, what was he, 30-ish last year? I think he's going to jump up like 18 spots. Like, I literally think he's going to have a huge year because it's not going to just come in the end zone where I did predict correctly last year where he had the 8 to 10 touchdowns, obviously because I'm a genius, but the yards are going to be added on top of those this year as well. So he'll probably go, 8 to 10 touchdowns around 1,000 yards this time. So,
well, that's the thing. Like, Allen's never been the huge touchdown producer. I don't have the stats right in front of me, but I'd be shocked if he's ever had more than 10 touchdowns in a season, and I bet it's not too often where he's hit double digits if he has.
Yeah, he had 6 last year.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, Allen, when you think about fantasy, like, yeah, you want the targets, you want the volume, but when you're week to week, head-to-head matchups, you need that consistency. And, man, I think Keenan Allen, once again, the stats aren't right in front of me, he's got to be one of the most consistent guys when it comes to actually just catches per game, yards per game, sprinkling a couple of touchdowns here and there. So, yeah, I get it. I understand the pick there. My preference for Keenan Allen, though, is if I had him as my wide receiver 2 rather than my team's leading receiver. So maybe you get a top running back in the first round, and then in the next 2 rounds, rounds 2 and 3, you go wide receiver. And if that's probably your only case is if the running backs that are left aren't really like on top of your list and you're not going to go out of your way just to draft a running back for the sake of, hey, running backs are scarce, I need a running back. So if you can get one of those top guys, come back with like a Thielen, and then in the 3rd round, Keenan Allen is still there, that's another lineup that I'd be super happy with. You're going to be weak at running back, but that's kind of how fantasy teams are. You have your strengths, you have your weaknesses, you just have to build from there. But I think the perfect spot for Keenan Allen is if you go running back, receiver, and Keenan Allen is your second receiver.
Like I said, he's more than useful in a PPR as your number 1 wide receiver. Like, he should be vaulted up a few spots because he's going to put up consistently probably around 20 points just based off of getting like 7 to 10 catches a game and, 70 to 100 yards. So, I mean, he's going to have good weeks, whether he scores a touchdown or not. The touchdowns are just an added bonus on top of the numbers he's already putting up.
Well, and we might see that offense, which already kind of passed a lot and made people fantasy relevant. Who knows how this whole Melvin Gordon thing's gonna pan out? So you're not having to worry about him potentially anymore. Man, they're gonna pass. They're loaded right now with Mike Williams and Hunter Henry as well. Phillip Rivers is like my dark horse candidate to win the MVP this year. I really wouldn't rule that out. Man, this is going to be kind of like they're in a win now mode. They need to do it like pretty much now or never with him. He's towards the tail end of his career. He's outlasted Andrew Luck. I mean, but other than that, they're going to have to get it done like sooner rather than later. So yeah, I like all those options right now for the Chargers. DJ, anything else about the NFL, about fantasy football? Anything else you want to get off your chest before we wrap this up?
Should we give them a little preview to what's happening next week?
Yeah, you can give a little teaser. Give a little teaser.
Well, it's the big weekend, It's the weekend we go back to our hometown. We're both together playing some fantasy football. We get hammered, way too drunk at our home league draft, and make some terrible picks. But we'll also be doing a podcast in person together, and it's just an overall shit show. We do our preview for the 2019 NFL season. I mean, we're probably going to be way off on every prediction we make, but that's the fun of it. We can look back on it and talk about how pathetic we were and how wrong we were on those things, but it's good fun. I was doing my predictions today, and let me tell you, I had way too many teams at 13-3 and way too many teams at like 2-14. I made some changes, but let me tell you, there is one team that I kept around 13-3 that I was shocked.
Ooh, spoiler.
There.
That's a tease. That's what you call a tease, DJ. We never tease really anything like this. We put out. We're not much for teasing.
Yeah, my wife. I'm taking notes from my wife.
Well done. Before we wrap this up, I also want to bring up, because I saw it on Twitter a lot. Yesterday, so Saturday, was apparently like National Draft Day. They say it's like the one of the biggest weekends, biggest days for drafts. I get it if you want to have your draft. But honestly, and if whatever works for you guys, if you're doing a draft, you got to find a date that works for all your people. I get that. But why wouldn't you wait until week 3 of the preseason is completely over with, completely in the books, to avoid these kind of injuries? Because no one really of like huge fantasy relevancy is going to play or get hurt in week 4. So you're going to be fine. Why are you jumping the gun and having these drafts? I get drafts happen all the time, but in like your main drafts where you wait till the end, why don't you wait another freaking 36 to 48 hours?
Well, and that's not even that. I would wait a whole nother week. Like the weekend we do it, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, should be the National Draft Day.
It's Labor Day. You got time.
There's Zeke Elliott, Melvin Gordon. There's still practices to happen that whole next week. I don't care about that fourth preseason game, but there's practices throughout the week that are happening that guys can get injured. There's so many things that can happen over this next week. I have 2 drafts this week, and I hate it because I don't know. I feel like Zeke's going to be signed on like Friday, but I'm going to do a draft Monday and Wednesday. I'm going to be too scared to take him.
Yeah, I just wanted to get that off my chest. I almost went on Twitter Live just after like 3 whiskeys yesterday, just to spit that out. But I'm like, you know what? We're going to podcast the next day. I'll give my somewhat sober thoughts at that point, because I knew you'd be on my side, because I just don't understand these early drafts. It doesn't make sense to me. So
doesn't make sense.
Should we wrap it up?
Yep.
All right. As always, check us out on Twitter at LoadedBox. Check out our website. We have our latest fantasy rankings, latest blogs, latest podcasts, everything you need in regards to fantasy football, loadedboxpodcast.com. As DJ teased, we are going to be back with our next episode doing our season predictions. We'll be looking live. It's a fun episode. It's probably like a top 3 episode that we do every year. Looking forward to that one. You're already listening to us on either iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, or some other way, and thank you for doing that. And if you haven't already, subscribe, rate, and review. DJ, send us out.
I just want to say, everybody, enjoy this next week. Appreciate it. You get to do fantasy football drafts. We made it through this summer. We finally did it. It's fantasy football. Football's back. Let's fucking go. Bye.
I wonder if Andrew Luck wants a spot in our league.